Life and Crime Mondays on Lifetime. One new night, all true crime. What happens when a woman disappears without a trace?
How? Why? Where is she?
She never had a chance.
Text me when you get home. How does an affair turn into a fatal attraction?
There was some kind of hold he had over her.
Sleeping with a killer. One night of true crime with all new series. Life and Crime Mondays starts Monday, June 6th at 9, only on Lifetime.
Slow down! You're probably wondering how I got myself into this situation. Well, let me tell you a story. We were in love.
A Lifetime original movie ripped from the headlines.
Our program rescues dogs, and your prisoners would train them.
They are dangerous people.
Sure, but doesn't everyone deserve to feel loved?
Sit.
You got a real talent for this, John.
I learn from the best, Teach.
Based on an outrageous true story.
I've been waiting my whole life to meet a woman like you. We belong together.
From executive producer Catherine Bell.
There's no way you'd bust me out of here.
There's no way you could fit in there.
I could do all kinds of things.
Their love
When was the last time that you heard from your wife? You asked Marshals!
will be unleashed.
Love always finds a way.
We're like Bonnie and Clyde. It made me feel so darn alive.
Jailbreak Lovers. Premieres Saturday, July 2nd at 8. Only on Lifetime.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming to our Summer 2022 Virtual Press Day. Please join me in welcoming the stars of Jailbreak Lovers. We have with us today executive producer and star Catherine Bell, along with her co-star Tom Stevens. I will now open the floor to questions for the cast. First up, we have Tamara Rollins. Tamara?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Tamara. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So, Toby always followed the rules and did what was expected of her. Can you guys identify with the character's desire to be carefree, coloring outside the lines, not being perfect, or simply being wild and free for once?
Wow, I think probably anyone could relate to that. Hopefully people don't resort to this sort of craziness, but I think there's always that idea of like, ooh, what if I, broke the rules and did something wild for a moment? I think that's what I wanted to at least give a sense of, like, people are always going, why would someone do this? Why would someone break the law and do something like this? And hopefully we give you guys a little insight into where that comes from.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that every person needs to kind of check in on their life at some point and go, am I coloring too within the lines, or do I need to go outside of my comfort zone? Because I think outside your comfort zone is where you really learn who you are.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Up next, we have a question from Suzanne. Suzanne, you may feel free to unmute.
Hi, Catherine, since you were a producer on this movie, did you have any influence over the tone of the movie? It's a little less serious than most Lifetime movies I've seen.
Katie Boland is our beautiful director. She brought her vision to this, which was this playful and high energy and sexy and fun spirit. I think Tom and I both really enjoyed making this movie because it had all of that in it. It was just this fast pace and just wild adventure that these two were on. And definitely you have some say as a producer, but I got to say it all just kind of came together magically. There wasn't a whole lot to do except, become this character on my end,
And is that same for you, Tom?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't have the same kind of hand in it as Catherine did, but I mean, what we brought kind of fit exactly what Katie wanted, what Catherine and I were doing. And it was just so fun to just, like, we shot so many scenes kind of like back to back to back to back. And we always found like a fun way of connecting as these two people, because in the prison, it was like, a secret love. And then when we were out in the cabin, it was more spontaneous and free. Mm-hmm. And every single time Catherine and I brought like a really strong connection. and yeah, it was just always fun. You know, every scene was always fun to shout.
Well, thanks. It was fun to watch too.
Good. We joke we want to do a sequel. I don't think it'll ever happen. They're not together, but we had too much fun making.
As long as you have dogs, that's the good thing.
Right, exactly.
Prison pen pals and dogs.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Suzanne. Up next, we have Jamie. Jamie, you may feel free to unmute.
Oops. Hi. Thanks for talking to us today. So can you kind of talk about when you're doing something that's based on real people, like how can you talk about balancing kind of what you pull from that versus what you're able to creatively add from yourself for both of you?
Tom, you go.
Yeah, Catherine. Oh, you want me to go? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie, good to see you again.
You too.
Yeah, I think with John, with Maynard, there wasn't a lot about him. There's kind of the story. There's a lot of Molly and of everything that she went through. But for John, it was kind of more free for me to just bring the foil to her husband. Do you know what I mean? Like I had to represent something that was something that she was missing in her life. Mm-hmm. And it was a more free experience to build a character rather than actually having interviews that I could bounce off of like Catherine obviously had.
Yeah. I on the other hand had a lot of interviews, and I watched all the ones that I could find of Toby. Obviously I don't look anything like her, so I gave that up quickly, but there's an essence to her that I tried to get, she's got that little bit of the Kansas accent, and just this sweet woman who really just was totally taken by surprise by this guy, and it just completely altered the course of her life. But it was a lot of fun trying to become this woman who's very different than myself.
Okay, thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Up next is Mike Hughes. Mike, feel free to unmute.
Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. Hey, probably shortly after you finished this, another real life case like this came up in Alabama where someone escaped with the prison lady. And I was wondering, did this give you like special interest in it? Did you kind of follow that news story extra special? Did you maybe root for them or anything like that?
I mean, it was unbelievable that happened. It was like, okay, life imitating art, imitating real life. It was, it's interesting that this happens a fair amount, that these guys are in this unusual situation in a prison and fall for each other. The idea for me of crossing that line and going, yeah, let's break out of jail. I mean, really, you're never going to get away with it. That one ended very tragically, but it's just fascinating.
You didn't root for them.
Were you rooting for them, Catherine?
Was I? I mean, I don't think, no, I wasn't really thinking about it either way. I was very, very sad, of course, how it ended, but I would have preferred a happier ending than that for sure.
Yeah, and we tell fictitious fun side of this, and I mean the true story between Toby and John is a little darker than this, like in reality than the story that we told, and I'm sure that story was darker too. Yeah. So I mean, we can have fun with this because we're making a movie about it, but these people were going through something. It's more serious when it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike. Up next, we have Jay Bobbin. Jay, feel free to unmute.
Hi, folks. Hi, Catherine. How are you?
Hi, Jay.
Hi, good to see you.
Jay.
Catherine, question for you. You've done non-edgy for so many years now. To step back into something that is decidedly edgy, an actor acts, obviously, that's their profession, but it wasn't an easy thing for you, or did it take working up to this a little bit, having done Cassie for so many years?
Yeah, you know what? It's always challenging to me, which is probably why I love acting so much. It's never just like, oh, piece of cake. Like, it's like, oh, who is this person? And in the beginning, you don't know who they are, how to become them, and watching her interviews and kind of just trying to to work on that was a beautiful challenge. I really loved it. Really loved stepping into this, and edgy, and also a very kind of withdrawn, like kind of toned down person as well. Someone who's not so confident or whatever. So it was just a lot of fun for me to play all of those things.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it was fun to witness. Actually, it's fun to watch you build the character. Yeah.
Thank you. We had so much fun together.
I know.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Up next, we have Starry Constellation magazine.
Well, Tom, they say you should never work with kids and animals on screen, and you worked with a number of dogs. Talk about the training you went through for dog training.
So I'm an advocate for Cesar Milan and everything that he does with behavioral science and dog science. And I have a dog of my own that I have put through a rigorous training. It comes naturally to me to be around animals and to be like, an alpha or like a calm, assertive presence with them. So that wasn't hard for me. What was tricky was when the dogs didn't care that I was a calm presence or, authoritative presence. And they were like, oh, my trainer's behind the camera and I can do whatever I want right now for the next 30 seconds while the cameras are rolling. And he starts eating a toy in the middle of our scene. So there's certain things that you can't control when like a dog's just on the side and he just kind of starts doing his own thing. But there's like a lot of things that you can do to just be like the calm presence for the dogs that they respect. They say don't work with animals because animals are in the moment and the audience will always be drawn to them. So it kind of forces you to be in the moment with the dog. And then it's interesting for the audience to watch.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Up next, we have Cynthia Horner.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I would like to ask both of you this question. What is a memorable behind the scenes moment that you can tell us about when you were filming?
There were a lot.
Hey, I instantly thought of the car chase stuff. That was just so much fun.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, actually driving and then on the top of the truck where they're towing you and you're pretending there's so much going on. We've had some good laughs.
You're getting arrested. I think I loved the feeling is when we got out of week one, when we got out of the prison. We were shooting a prison movie, so a lot of it had to be done on location in this corrections facility. And it felt very much like repeated scenes, like we were doing the like similar scenes over and over and over again in this box. And then when we got out of that week, it was like this freedom just opened up, and it really felt like the characters got to like go and see new places and go to different restaurants and do all this stuff. It was very much what the characters go through. So I love that like transition into the Toby and John being free period.
True. I also really loved all the stuff in the cabin. It was just such a tiny little cabin, and our whole crew really bonded. It was Halloween too, right? The crew. With, crazy costumes on.
Yeah,
we were
we were like
Toby
in our little
John costumes.
It like nearly drowned us in rain. It was pouring rain so hard. It was like flooding around the cabin. It was crazy.
Right. Good
and
old
then
Vancouver.
Our DP's in a sumo suit, and it was hilarious.
Wow, you guys had great stories to tell. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Cynthia.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. Up next, we have Rick Bentley. Rick.
Hi, can you hear me?
There you are.
Great. I'm sorry. Hey, Catherine, I'm just curious. This sort of rip from the headlines is something that's been going on for years, and obviously there's a big audience for that out there. Do you think it's a situation of people being sort of living vicariously through these wild moments, or is it by the grace of God goes me?
Oh man, I'm sure there's just that natural curiosity that all humans have of like, what is going on in someone else's world, And yes, this is a crazy world. It's something that hopefully most people will never experience. And then there's that other, the concept of, what were they thinking? Why would somebody do that? So hopefully they get a little taste of that with what Tom and I did, just how they fell in love and what led them to this crazy idea that they might get away with running away together,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. Up next is Luann Lee. Luann?
Yeah, Catherine, you were talking about the challenge and how you really adore the challenge in acting. And you've been doing it a long time. So what is it that you like best about acting in television? And what do you like the least?
Television as opposed to film, you mean, or just in general acting?
Well, just in general acting.
Yeah, I think I love so much about it. I love the process. I love finding the character, and as I mentioned, the challenges of that. It keeps me on my toes and always wanting to improve and be better. And even up until the scene is over, you're still okay. Well, the next take, I want to try this. I want to do that. I want to make this better or different. I love the camaraderie and there's just such a sense of family in these shows that you do together, movies, shows, whatever. It just makes such beautiful people. I so much I love about it. I love the effect it has on people when they're watching it. I think probably I love the adventure of travel and going to different locations, but sometimes that's challenging for my family, just to be away so much. So that's probably, if I could say there's something I don't like about it, sometimes that gets challenging. But again, I'm so grateful for what I get to do. So I got no complaints.
So what's the worst part of it?
Yeah, I think, being alone in a hotel room for weeks at a time, especially in COVID, there was one stretch. I took my son to Toronto for Goodwitch. It was 13 weeks away from home. I couldn't go back and forth because of the travel quarantine. That was intense.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. And then we have Steve Gitlow. Steve?
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey.
Good.
Good. I just wanted to ask, how familiar were you, or at all familiar with this story? Or was it all kind of news to both of you when you got the script?
I hadn't heard of it at all. When I started telling people about it, a lot of people remembered seeing it on the news. It was on Dateline and Anderson Cooper and all of that, but I hadn't heard of it at all. You, Tom?
Yeah, no, same. The escaping out of prison in a dog crate. I think it maybe rang a bell, but maybe I'm like, yeah, maybe that's just a logical way to sneak out of prison.
Why not?
But the case itself, I hadn't heard anything about it. And then I started reading the script, and it was just so fun.
Yeah.
And Tom, can you actually fit in a dog crate?
Easily. That dog crate was too easy to fit into. I wanted a smaller one. I wanted to do contortion,
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And we're going to be wrapping here momentarily, but I see two more hands are up. Jamie from Sci-Fi Vision, did you have another question?
Yeah, I can go get it. I was going to ask about the dog crate, but so I'll ask this. What did the two of you learn about yourselves from working on this show, either as performers or just as people in general?
Ooh. Wow. Tom, do you have an answer? Let me think about that.
I think what I learned about myself was it's with all the challenges that came with this, there's a lot of layers to John and playing John. And when I ever felt like I was kind of lost in it, all I knew I had to do was connect with Catherine. And I don't know if I learned that about myself, but I did learn that I can trust in Catherine whenever I feel like I'm lost in a scene. Is that me learning something? I don't know. I learned that about Catherine.
Thank you. Yeah, I had such an incredible time working with you, and our connection, it was just really, really special. Really, just like you said, you just look in your eyes and it was like all there. And I don't know, it was probably just a great realization that I can do this sort of a role, which was so different for me, and being able to trust in you and just making that happen is so magical.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and I enjoyed it. So
Oh, I'm
Thank
so
you,
glad.
Jamie. We loved it too.
Awesome. And now our final question is from Mike Hughes. Mike?
Yeah, I'll just ask real briefly about your impressions of working when you were in the correctional facility there. It looked like it wasn't a high security one. It looked like it was maybe medium or low security facility. Nothing struck you about it there? And did you get a chance to interact with the prisoners at all? Were they friendly to you? But just give us your overall impressions.
Yeah, well, it wasn't an active prison, so it was actually shut down. So, but still, for me, it was very, Tom, you were the one in the cell, but so cold, so impersonal. I can't even imagine being in a cell like that for years or for life. It's just, wow. You really just realize what that experience could be like, just a little taste of it.
Yeah. Again, it's like, it's an old youth center. So it's a youth correctional center in Burnaby that we were shooting in, and all the other prisoners were background, so not actual prisoners, but I did get a chance on my other show out in Halifax. I got to talk to a lady on our crew who had spent 4 months in prison that year on a charge that she was serving from years prior. We just all caught up with her, and she's a good friend of mine, and we sat down and just she gave me as much insight on what living in prison was like. And I just asked for words that would come up in her mind every day. Like, what's something that you would think every single day? And frustration is a big one. And you can feel frustrated in places like that because, like Catherine said, it's so confined and so isolating, and there's no time, and you just it's very plain. And